You guys are on tour right now, going around the state, talking to people. How's that going? What has the feedback been like from all the communities that you visited?
Yes, so it's been very good. We just had our 45th town hall meeting over the last 2 months that we left just a little while ago in Polk County. A great crowd there, traveling across the state, listening to what Tennesseans want, letting them ask, unfiltered questions, and I give unscripted answers. As my wife sometimes points out, those answers are not always perfect because we're going on the fly and we get different questions in each locality that we go to. But I think Tennesseans appreciate the opportunity to meet the person that is asking them to vote for them for governor, and the chance to ask questions and hear what I'm thinking. And certainly, I benefit from hearing what their concerns are for the future of Tennessee. So we've literally now visited again 45 stops, thousands of Tennesseans that we've visited with, and I think again, I believe that's important. What I've heard as I've traveled across Tennessee is that Tennesseans want a governor who will listen to them. They want a governor who will apply our conservative Tennessee values to taking on the issues and solving the problems that Tennesseans face. And they want a governor who will work hard to protect Tennessee, to keep Tennessee true to our values.
Sure. And while we're on the topic of just showing up, one of the things that we've been hearing is in public forums and debates, people want to see the candidates in front of them, and some people have been more willing to do so than others. What have you know? What are your thoughts on these public forums and all the candidates getting together and needing to hash out the issues in front of each other?
Sure. So we really haven't had what I would consider to be a public forum. On several occasions, all the candidates have been maybe at the same event, in some cases bringing remarks to the crowds assembled, but not really a forum among the Republican candidates for governor. And I think that Tennesseans deserve that. I think they deserve a robust debate. They deserve the opportunity to ask probing questions of the people who want to be the next governor of Tennessee. And they haven't gotten that. My main opponent in this race, Senator Blackburn, announced on the second day she was on the campaign trail last August that she did not plan to engage in a debate, and she stood by that. And so I think we deserve that as Tennesseans. Obviously, I'm a candidate in this race, and I stand ready to attend a forum or debate whenever we can get the candidates assembled to do that.
Excellent. And while we're on the topic of your main opponent, your team just sent us some new polling information that pretty much shows the early lead is deteriorating. Obviously, you guys have been on tour, making a very public presence. What do you think that your campaign is doing right that has led to this making up of ground?
Sure. Well, I think we knew all along that that was likely to happen. Our early polling showed us that Tennessee voters were not comfortable with the state's current senior senator as the governor of Tennessee. But she has nearly 100% name identification across the state. She obviously just ran statewide for a 6 year term in the United States Senate, announced that she was considering running for governor even before she took the oath of office for the 6 year term that we gave her in the United States Senate. And so I serving in a congressional district had less than 20% name identification across Tennessee, and so we knew we needed to get across the state and meet Tennesseans. That's why I got into the race last March 20th. So I've been in this race now 15, 16 months because I wanted to meet Tennesseans and I wanted to hear from them. And so, hearing, I think, is almost as important as getting acquainted with the Tennesseans who are going to elect the next governor of Tennessee, listening to what they want for the future of the state. It's not about what I want, it's about what Tennesseans want for this state. And so that's what we've been doing. I think that's made a big difference in how Tennesseans see the race. And I think at the end of the day, Tennesseans deserve to know what their next governor is going to do. And they're not really interested in inside the beltway goals and objectives. Some have said they want to make Tennessee America's conservative leader. My main opponent has said that. And I say Tennessee's already a very conservative state. And as I've traveled across Tennessee, not one time have I heard a Tennessean say, my goal for Tennessee is to make us the conservative leader. They want Tennessee to be conservative, sure, but that's not the things that Tennesseans are worried about. They're worried about affordability. They're worried about education. They're worried about transportation, our roads. They're worried about access to health care. They're worried about access to energy, and they're worried about job creation and economic development. They're worried about preserving the nature and quality of Tennessee. Those are the things Tennesseans are telling me, and they want the opportunity to meet firsthand the candidates for governor, and they don't like it when you show up and you have scripted questions and scripted answers. They want to be able to meet and ask those questions that come to mind to them in the moment.
Now, I do want to transition to a couple of topics, but before we do that, if you were to kind of summarize what you think your path to victory is, what would you say?
Sure. So I think we're on that path now, and the data that we can see tells us we're on that path and headed in the right direction. And so, we have the resources to get our message out. We've increased my name identity from less than 20% to over 70%. We still have some work to do, so we're not letting up. In these final weeks before early voting starts and leading up to the election, we're going to continue to communicate our common sense message that's a reflection of what Tennesseans say they want for the future of Tennessee. So we have the resources to get that word out. We want to talk about the issues that are important to Tennesseans, and so we try to stay on track with that. Help Tennesseans understand, how do they pick between the candidates that are running. The job of being governor of Tennessee is a CEO job. It's the leader of a very large organization. And I have that experience, and my opponents in this race do not have that experience. And I think that's really the distinguishing characteristic. I gained that experience by building businesses in the private sector, not unlike the recent governors that we've had in Tennessee that have been successful of both parties, whether Democrat or Republican. The governors that we've elected in recent years, Tennesseans have chosen to lead this state. They brought that business experience to the table. So I think Tennesseans understand what they're looking for. I think we offer that, and I think my opponents don't. And so I think that's the real key to victory here.
Okay. Well, let's talk about business. There is no denying that Tennessee has become a very attractive state for companies that are currently outside of our state wanting to move in. If you're taking the CEO helm, what do you want that to look like moving forward?
Sure, that's a good question, and it's one that comes up every stop that I make on our listening tour at our town halls that we're doing. Is Tennesseans are concerned about what we're doing, and so what I would tell you, having started a small business right here in Tennessee, the best businesses for the future of Tennessee are the ones that are born in Tennessee. The ones that are created by Tennessee entrepreneurs who grow those jobs and create those opportunities right here at home. But we know sometimes we're going to try to recruit businesses. We hope businesses that comport with our values, that match our values, will come to Tennessee and offer job opportunities for our citizens. And so then the question becomes, when do we offer incentives for that? And I think there's a place where there's a difference between the candidates. I believe that we should be very careful about that, and we shouldn't be spending taxpayer dollars to attract businesses to Tennessee that don't agree with our values. A stark example of that recently is that the Tennessee government decided to give Starbucks $30 million to come to Tennessee. And Starbucks is a very liberal, woke company based in Seattle, Washington. Frankly, their values don't comport with Tennessee's values. And so as a state, and if I was governor of this state, I think you have to have the courage and the determination to sometimes say, no, we think you might not be comfortable in our state. Starbucks is a company that advances diversity, equity, inclusion, and environmental, social, and governance, including transgender ideology. And so if we bring them to Tennessee, I think they'll be trying to push those ideas upon Tennesseans, and those aren't in step. Those values are not in step with Tennesseans. They'll probably get here. We can see how this story ends. They'll get here and they'll tell us we're out of step with modern American culture. And they'll probably even tell us that we're Neanderthals here in Tennessee. But I believe Neanderthals knew the difference between a man and a woman. And I don't think Starbucks knows the difference.
I actually just moved here from Seattle. I grew up in Knoxville, but actually moved out to Seattle to work. So the announcement of Starbucks coming here was an interesting one, to say the least,
Yes.
having been out there. All right, well, another big one business wise, data centers. I mean, just like last night, hundreds of people showed up to a Nashville public forum to try to stop the center from being built right by the Nashville Zoo. And in East Tennessee, Knox County, Knoxville last night, Loudoun County, they're putting a pause on all these data center developments just so they can get the proper zoning restrictions in place. How do you view the data center movement into Tennessee, and what do you think needs to be changed so that there can be a balance and a healthy environment moving forward?
Sure. So I think you've already touched on it, and that is that we need to empower local communities across Tennessee to make the choices that are right for their individual communities. There may be places where data centers are appropriate, where they fit in well, and where they will actually provide great economic value to the community. There'll clearly be other cases where it's not the right fit. And I think you've cited the case in Nashville where putting a data center next to the Nashville Zoo, it might not be the right fit because it might disturb what's already happening there. And I think local leaders are probably best situated to make those decisions. And so I would certainly support empowering local communities to the degree they're not already empowered to make those choices. And so, all right, we need to lead then on helping local communities, counties, and cities across the state fashion appropriate zoning restrictions and other policies so that they can be in front of this issue and not be playing catch up all the time. But we also have to know that there's a race on in the world for building the technology of the future, and data centers are going to power that. And we have to also recognize that China is actually interfering in our domestic affairs and trying to stir up dissent and trying to discourage data centers from being built here in the United States. Why would they do that? And the answer is pretty clear, because they want those data centers in China. And they want those data centers in China because they want to control the information of the future. They want to control our data. And we simply don't need to let that happen. So I think we need to, as a country, figure out how do we accommodate the growing need for the data that's going to power the future, that's going to open the door to the future for the next generation of Americans. And we want that development to take place here in the United States. So we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we do need to be careful about how we proceed so that we don't destroy the nature and beauty of Tennessee in the process.
Absolutely. And just a follow up, there's a current federal lawsuit happening in Hawkins County where they've tried to outright ban data centers altogether. Do you support local counties being able to make that decision, or do you think it's a better route to just go proper zoning to make sure it's not disturbing existing communities?
Well, I do think local communities should be able to decide. And if a local community decides that they do not want data centers, then it's probably appropriate for those centers, those businesses to look elsewhere. I think that's a uniquely local decision, ought to be made at the local level. I would hope over the time, as people become maybe more comfortable, they would be able to distinguish between the data centers that might make a positive contribution to the community and those that would not. But I do think we want to empower local communities to make those decisions at the local level, and that's in keeping with conservative Republican thought about that government which is closest to the people governs best. And I think this is a classic case where we want to allow local communities a great deal of autonomy with respect to what they allow into their own backyards.
All right. Going to move on to our topic that's actually going to be in our 5 p.m. newscast, school vouchers. Very controversial topic in Tennessee. Right now, Knox County is dealing with an $8 million shortage for the public school budget. And there are some people that are pointing to the expansion of the voucher program as one of the reasons some of the state funding wasn't available this time around. What are your thoughts on the voucher program, and is it something you would be looking to continue?
Well, I think the legislature has been through a pretty rigorous debate about education opportunity scholarships and have put in place a program, and with thoughtful consideration for what all the issues are. And so, what I've learned as I've visited with Tennesseans across the state is that parents want choices, and Tennesseans want parents to have options for how they educate their children. Clearly, we have places in Tennessee, many of them are urban areas where the school districts are not performing. And so when you are a parent in one of those districts, you need to have an option maybe and some choices so how you can find the right educational opportunity for your child. And so I would, if I'm elected governor, I would work to make sure we do everything to see if this program can be successful. So what we want in the end for our students in Tennessee is we want them to have the best educational opportunities possible. And then we want parents to have a say in what the educational outcomes for their children will look like. And then for the people of Tennessee, we want transparency about what's going on. We want to know, how our taxpayer resources are being utilized, and we want to know whether the programs that have been in place are actually producing the results that they were promised they would produce. And so, as governor, I would promise to make sure that we try to defend the opportunity for parents to make the appropriate choices for their students, but we would demand transparency about what's happening. And ultimately, we have to demand accountability that those programs are actually producing results. What we have to keep in mind is that today, 89% of our students are going to graduate from a Tennessee public school. 9 out of 10 of our students. If we're not getting the job done in the school sector, then we'll be failing as a state. So we have to have a governor who's committed to working hard to make sure that our public schools are delivering for our students. One of the pledges I've made, and it's unique to me among the 3 candidates for the Republican nomination, is that if you elect me to be the next governor, I will appoint a commissioner of education who has the teach the Tennessee public school classroom. And I think it goes without saying that if you expect the 60,000 teachers in Tennessee to feel motivated and appreciated, they need someone leading them who understands what it's like to be in the trenches.
I'm sorry, I'm taking that as a note so I can make sure to pass that along, actual teachings, because that's a good thing to look forward to. All right. Is there anything else that you would like to say? We've covered all the topics that I wanted to cover, and that will be in our newscast. So final thoughts from you, so get you back to your tour.
Sure, absolutely. So what I would say, one of the most common questions I get asked is why you, John Rose? Why should we pick you to be the next governor? And that's pretty straightforward. The job of being governor is the job of being CEO of Tennessee. The state is not a business, but it is a very large organization. And so when Tennesseans are thinking about who they want to be the next governor, I think they ought to be thinking about who has that experience. So, the last 7.5 years I've served in Congress. I've been a legislator. My colleagues who are running are legislators. But I bring to the table a different set of experiences. I've built buildings, built businesses, and I know how to take an idea from the idea stage to the successful outcome stage. And I don't think my opponents in this race have that experience. And so, today, the job of a legislator that I have today is to decide to push the green button, whether to vote yes or vote no. Mm-hmm. Do that responsibly. I spend time studying and thinking about what the right decisions are. But the point is, once a legislator makes the decision about whether to vote yes or no, they're done with that process. And then it gets handed over to the executive branch. In the case of Congress, to the president. In the case of the Tennessee General Assembly, it gets handed over to the governor. And so we need a governor who knows how to lead a large organization to actually turn ideas into reality. And I have that experience. If you hire one of my opponents, there's going to be a lot of on-the-job training. And anyone who's run a business or been involved in training employees know that on-the-job training can be very expensive. And I don't think Tennesseans want that. So we need someone who's ready to go to work, roll up their sleeves, go to work on day one.